In 1945, the American military destroys Hiroshima and Nagasaki with atomic bombs. Soviet scientists are scrambling to develop nuclear weapons of their own. The United States and the Soviet Union had been uneasy allies during World War II.
Gone was the spirit of wartime unity that reached its peak on that historic afternoon in April '45. Here, two worlds actually met, but this coalition was to be torn asunder.
Less than a year after Japan surrenders, Winston Churchill's Iron Curtain speech outlines the beginning of the Cold War.
An iron curtain has descended across the continent.
In 1949, the Soviets explode an atomic bomb of their own. They call it First Lightning. Fear of the communist Soviet Union becomes an epidemic known as the Red Scare. The Soviets fear the United States just as much. In 1952, America raises the stakes in the nuclear arms race by detonating the first thermonuclear bomb, nearly 700 times as powerful as the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. The Soviets counter with a thermonuclear bomb of their own. By the mid-1950s, both Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev and American President Dwight D. Eisenhower realized that if either side attacks, the other can destroy it in retaliation.
Together we must learn how to compose differences, not with arms, but with intellect and decent purpose.
Both sides understand that, but it does not stop either side from continuing its nuclear tests. By 1955, the Soviets have some 200 nuclear weapons, and the U.S. more than 2,000. The strategy of building so many weapons that the other side would never dare attack becomes known as mutually assured destruction, or MAD. At first, long-range bombers are the only way both the Soviets and Americans can deliver a nuclear weapon over enemy territory. Both sides also are developing intercontinental ballistic missiles, called ICBMs, which can deliver bombs much faster. America is shocked in 1957 when the USSR uses an ICBM to launch the very first payload into space, a satellite called Sputnik. If they can launch a satellite, how soon could they rain down thermonuclear bombs on New York or Washington? The weapons keep advancing. In 1961, America launches its first solid-fueled missile, the Minuteman. With a hair-trigger launch response, it is a big step forward from cumbersome liquid-fueled missiles. By 1962, the Soviets have stockpiled some 500 nuclear warheads, and the Americans nearly 7,000. Late in 1962, the threat of an actual nuclear war suddenly looms large. CIA analysts find evidence that a Soviet missile base is under construction in Cuba, less than 100 miles from the United States.
Do you, Ambassador Zorin, deny that the USSR has placed and is placing medium and intermediate range missiles and sites in Cuba? Yes or no?
As several tense days pass, the Soviets are intent on delivering missiles to Cuba, and the U.S. is determined to keep them away.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States.
The Cuban Missile Crisis escalates to the edge of nuclear war. In fact, a Soviet submarine almost attacks a U.S. ship with nuclear-armed torpedoes. In the end, both Khrushchev and Kennedy compromise. and nuclear war is averted, but just barely. Although the Soviets withdraw from Cuba, the arms race continues to escalate.
This is a B-61 bomb, a lightweight two-stage thermonuclear weapon with 4 delivery options.
New bombs, missiles, and other weaponry are developed and deployed by both sides through the 1960s and beyond. But as early as the 1964 presidential campaign, Lyndon Johnson is able to use fear of nuclear weapons to beat his opponent, Barry Goldwater.
On October 24th, 1963, Barry Goldwater said of the nuclear bomb, merely another weapon, merely another weapon. Vote for President Johnson. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.